Tell us where we are right now and what's happening.
We are in the Vanier Knights of Columbus. It is Saturday Night Fights 2, Celtic Hammer Boxing Club's second fight night. And we're just getting ready. Fighters have all done their weigh-ins, and we're just getting ready for the fights to start at 7:30.
Now, John, describe the mood here, because I came in here through the that door over there, the back entrance or what have you, and I'm sensing something. What's happening here?
Impatience.
Impatience.
Because they've weighed in at the medicals and the weigh-in start at 5:30.
Yeah.
And they're all done now. And again, we're waiting to go at 7:30. So now it's a lot of hurry up and wait.
Sure.
This is the hard time. So the fighters now, it's the hour before go time, which is the most difficult time. That's when you got to keep your nerves in check. Try not to burn too much energy prior to the fight. So this is the hard time.
How does one keep their energy and emotion in check?
You fall back on your preparation. Usually a lot of times when you're nervous for a fight, it's because you feel you aren't adequately prepared. That's in my experience. And I'm just saying the guys from my club anyhow are extremely ready. So I asked them, has anybody trained harder than you? Does anybody work harder than you in training? And the answer is no. So you have that to fall back on. And it's just, they're also adults. When I get fighters, I also look for a certain mental component to them all, not just the physical abilities. And there's a level of maturity that I look for that I want my fighters to have. And this is where it comes into play.
Elaborate on that. I'm curious to know how do you look for that maturity and that sense of presence?
It reveals itself in training. Because in training, we put the fighters into such a state of discomfort that the mentally strong survive and the ones who aren't don't. So a lot of times you'll hear me saying in training to them, right now it's not about skill, it's more about will. It's not about fitness. You're fit, guys. It's just, is your mind going to let you quit? Or are you in charge of your mind? And that's a big part of boxing and combat sports, is that keeping your mental energy where it needs to be. You don't want to burn out too early,
right?
Because I've seen guys in their first fight, like super athletic guys, they come back after the first round and they have absolutely nothing left because they've wasted all their energy on nerves. And so when it comes time to perform, they got nothing left.
Now, we're at the historic Knights of Columbus in Vanier. I say historic because this particular venue here at 260 MacArthur has held a variety of different sorts of combat sports. Everything from professional wrestling, that's C4 Wrestling here in Ottawa, a great promotion, all the way to sub-X grappling. But tonight, it's boxing.
It is.
And what can fans expect?
So what they can expect is dedicated athletes giving their all. It's a fight. Boxing is the most basic of combat sports, in my opinion. It's because someone's trying to take your head off. So, but it's being done with grace and skill and fitness. And a lot of people came to the first show. It was their first time ever at a live boxing event, and they were smitten. They just were like, wow, I can't believe how tough these kids are. And a lot of the adults were saying that they could never even think of stepping between the ropes. So, and the part that I like about it is there's a lot of local fighters, a lot of local Ottawa fighters. There's 4 guys on tonight from my gym, Celtic Hammer. There's 1 from Final Round. There's 1 from Beaver Boxing. So there's 6 from Ottawa. There's 2 coming from Buckingham. And they're your sons. They're your boyfriends. They're your kid. They're your big brother. Most of them are students, so they have to have the mental discipline to juggle school and probably a part-time job and train to fight. And this is good to come out and support them. It's an Olympic sport. Amateur boxing has gotten a bad rap because a lot of people, when they hear boxing, they associate it with the Mike Tyson circus or the Floyd Mayweather, Conor McGregor circus that went on last year. And it's not. It's kids in your neighborhood, and they're getting up there and they're putting on a show, and it's a really good time.
People love striking sports. They love boxing. They love the knockouts. But there's also Thai boxing, right? There's also other striking sports. Karate's making a big comeback, obviously, because it's being It's being implemented. It's an Olympic sport now at the 2020 Tokyo Olympics. So there's a comeback of a resurgence of traditional sports.
Right.
What is the state of boxing in Ottawa, in Ontario, and in Canada from your perspective? As far as the amateur, I'm not talking about professional.
It's on the upswing, actually. It had some pretty lean times. But it's on the upswing. Boxing is making a resurgence. For all the people who I hear say boxing is dead, again, tell Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather that, and prior to that, tell Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao that. They generated some serious cash for a dead sport.
It's the number one professional combat sport worldwide.
Absolutely.
I mean, mixed martial arts still has a long way to go to convert fans, because you've got fans who are, the traditional old school types. When you say combat sports, they're talking about boxing.
Absolutely. Well, boxing also has the benefit of having probably the world's most famous athlete ever. Muhammad Ali, who transcended sport and was a cultural icon, and he boxed. Mm-hmm. So that gives you a lot of credibility as a sport, because, like I said, he transcended athletics and became a vehicle for social change. Mm-hmm. And he happened to compete in the sport that I love. So we have that benefit. And no, but as far as Canada's concerned, they just come back from a really good showing at the Commonwealth Games. I don't remember the exactly medal total, but they came back with more than a handful of medals from the Commonwealth Games. So boxing is definitely on the upswing. We have a couple of good young fighters in Canada.
As far as this event here tonight, what role do boxing events like these, John, what do they play as far as the role in the development of these amateur athletes, but also in terms of cultivating the audience that you need?
Well, it's good that you say that. It's especially in Ottawa and the surrounding area, we have to put on our own shows, because if you live in Toronto, you could fight every weekend if you want to, because there's just such a large population.
Literally every weekend?
You could if you so chose to.
So you're saying for you can get over 30 fights a year?
If you so choose, if it all falls in place. But if you look on the Boxing Ontario website, they have a list of events.
Right.
I'd say 2-3 fight cards per weekend in Toronto and the surrounding GTA. It's just such a large population base where we don't have that in Ottawa. So we work together. So I'll contact Beaver Boxing and I'll contact Final Round, and we'll fight on each other's shows, because it's I'm of the opinion that a rising tide floats all boats. It's mutually beneficial. Mm-hmm. And I'll say we have George came in from Cornwall. He brought fighters in from Cornwall. So we all help each other out. Best of friends until the bell rings, and then we all try to win. It's a sport, and but we help each other, and because it's one of these things you get better by doing it. Mm-hmm. There isn't a season the way, say, hockey, that there's a hockey season or a baseball season or a soccer season. You have to wait until somebody puts on an event, and then that's when you get your fights, unless you wait for the tournaments like Golden Gloves or provincials, that sort of thing. But they only come around once a year. Mm-hmm. So in the meantime, you got to do something. You got to fight, and so that's what we're doing here. And it's also raising the
profile.
The profile. Thank you. They're raising the profile of the sport in the National Capital Area, because it's teeming right now, because we're doing our event.
Sorry,
today.
it's what?
It's teeming. It's
building up.
It's booming.
Okay.
We have our event tonight. Beaver Boxing has an event May 4th, and Buckingham has an event on May 5th, and then Cornwall's doing one May 26th. And in between then, a good friend of ours from upstate New York is doing one on May 19th. So I have fighters on all of those cards. And the reason we're going to all those cards is because we've cultivated positive relationships with all those other clubs. It's not, I don't go to their clubs, or it's not catty. It's,
Are you telling me it's not like some of these other martial art community?
I don't know much about martial arts, but I've heard things.
Yeah.
And no, man, it's like a very good friend of mine is from Watertown Boxing Club today. Mm. We're fighting two of his guys. And nothing personal. We're going to have a beer afterwards. But It's like, we learn from each other. We help each other. We test ourselves against each other. Mm-hmm.
But isn't that a commonality amongst the traditional combat sports? judo, wrestling, that's freestyle, Greco, boxing, taekwondo.
Well, it should be.
Because it's an established international sport and it's an Olympic sport, isn't there more of that collaborative sort of...
Well, there should be. There's some people are a little shady about how they operate, but they quickly get weeded out because it's people talk.
Yeah.
And you're dealing with that guy. Ooh, be careful! He burned me on a
right.
Because there's been a couple of times I've gone to Toronto and have left saying, "Well, I'm never going back there again."
Really?
It's just because you get treated. Some clubs are better than others in how they treat visitors. Like what I do is when people come in, I walk up to every fighter and every coach and shake their hands and say, "Thanks for coming to my event."
Right.
We're going to try and knock you out in about an hour, but thanks for coming. But of course, he's going to try and knock out my guy too. So it's nothing personal. It's just business.
It's part of the game. It's the sport you play, which is boxing. Now, this is your second event.
Yes.
What can we expect in terms of consistency of shows? Because you mentioned two other shows happening in this region, in the National Capital Region.
I'm looking at doing 2 to 3 a year, which is reasonable because there's a lot of work that goes into this.
Sure.
And venues are scarce.
Right.
And just getting the venue here where we are now, I had to book this in around Christmas time to make sure I got it for the end of April.
That's 6 months ago.
About 4 months ago.
Yeah.
And so you want to make sure, and I also have to coordinate it with when the provincial tournaments are happening. So I don't want to run an event within maybe 2 weeks of any of the tournaments because nobody wants to fight then in case they get cut or a bad bruise, then they can't compete in one of the tournaments. So you have to take all those things into consideration when you're running the event. So I'm looking at doing two, maybe 3, depending on how the dates fall. And again, Beaver does the same. They do 2, maybe 3 shows a year. That's up to 6 shows in the National Capital region, just in the National Capital, and that's not even including Buckingham. Buckingham does 5 a year. So just with us, Beaver and Buckingham, we're looking at over 10 shows a year.
I mean, that's pretty solid of a territory for fight fans to come out.
Absolutely. If you're a fight fan in Ottawa or National Capital region, it's here.
Describe the energy during, as far as from the spectator's point of view. I could imagine looking at the audience tonight that most people who are coming out probably know most of the fighters. There's some sort of connection. Right? You're coming out to watch your friend. You're coming out to watch a family member. What aspect of audience development do you guys do? Sorry, it's kind of a tough question.
That's fun. No, I know exactly what to say.
Yeah, like what aspect of audience development do you guys do as a promoter running your second show here?
A lot of social media, because basically the old school way of doing it just doesn't work anymore. Like putting up posters, and that's not a good use of your time. So
actually, your campaign for as far as social media campaign, I have to say, as someone who operates on that level as far as social media and brand management, has been pretty darn good.
Oh, thank you very much.
Because you guys have been, posting at a consistent pace, promoting the different fighters.
Personalize it.
Yes. It's been great. It's drawn me in. You know what I mean?
I appreciate that. Thank you. My wife's always like, "Why are you on Facebook for?" I'm like,
"You're working."
I'm working. I'm not playing on my phone. I'm working.
Right.
But you'll see from the actual crowd itself, it's different than a few of the other combat sports that I've seen.
How so?
There's not a lot of negative toward the person you're say I'm cheering fighter A.
Yeah.
You're not screaming negative things at fighter B. You're cheering on your guy.
Okay.
So in boxing, you don't see you don't trash talk the other guy. You just really cheer on the person you're cheering for. Mm-hmm. It's almost like an unspoken rule and you don't direct stuff at your opponent, your guy's opponent. It's kind of nice. It's very positive. It's loud.
Right.
Because a lot of times moms are watching their kid fight, so they're
emotionally invested.
They're the people you got to keep out of the ring sometimes.
Sure.
Because they want to get up there and get in on it, right? But
has that happened before?
Not in anything that I've seen it happen, but not with any of my fighters. I've seen a mom in Quebec one time come up and pound on the side of the ring while the fights were taking place. And
wow.
Because her son was getting handled, and she wasn't too happy about that. So. But it's the sport. It's the sport we do. It's the life we. It's like the mafia. It's like the Godfather. It's the life. It's the life we chose.
Yeah.
But
Totally.
yeah, so it's really positive. It's really loud. It's a lot of fun. We have, I think music plays a big component in the shows, because I've gone to some places where the fight ends and then it's just dead. And then it's like, all right, next fight. And it really sucks the energy out of the room. So what we'll do is the fight will end and then the music comes back on, and it's just has a nice flow to the evening. And I have a background in I got my degree in sports management, and I have a background in event management.
Oh, wow.
So
what a perfect combination for as a promoter.
Yeah,
This is your domain.
My wife was like, "Well, finally doing something.
This is your domain, bro.
Yeah,
this is like a win-win-win."
Exactly. So it's been going well so far. A few challenges today.
Tell me, what are some of the challenges in running such?
Weigh-ins are 5:30 for today's event. Yes, you mentioned, today's event.
Yeah.
I got a call at 3:00. A guy who had 3 fighters pulled out.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Crap.
So he pulled out, and unfortunately, the main event pulled out.
Oh no!
Yeah. So Adrian Calestani, the Golden Gloves light heavyweight champion of Ontario, my fighter, isn't able to be on the card.
So he's not fighting tonight.
No, he pulled out. But thankfully, a couple of other clubs stepped up. One of the coaches came. He had 2 young lads, about 12 years of age. He's like, well, we can throw them in for an exhibition. And he's like, go get your stuff. And they're okay. They're good to go. And one of the other clubs brought someone just to help out, and he's a fighter, and he happened to line up with one of the guys who got canceled on. So he showed up just to help, and he's fighting on the card tonight. He just walked into it.
He's stepping up.
He's manning up. A lot of other sports and are like, well, I haven't had my prep time and my this and my that, and I'm basically like, you want to fight tonight? Sure.
That's awesome.
And it's good to go.
That's awesome. What does this mean for you as a coach, an event organizer professionally, and as a coach? What does it mean for you to put on such event?
It's a culmination of a lifetime's passion and love of the sport, and it's kind of coming to fruition. I have to thank my wife, because I would come home from events and be like, they could have done this better, or it would have been better had they tried this. And then she was like, well, either shut up or do it yourself, or shut up. I'm sick of hearing about it. So I said, all right, well, I'll do it.
You know what's funny? I think it's fair to say, I think you're the only promoter in this region who has a background in events planning or management, and a sports manager background. I don't think there's anyone else, and it's not a knock on the other promoters. Obviously,
well,
that's not the intent.
It just seems like a natural fit,
right?
And it's funny because based on last show, people came up to me going, "Oh man, everything seems so nice and smooth and so flawless." And my patent line is, "It takes a lot of work to make things look effortless."
It takes a lot of work to make
things look. Or like it's the cliche about the duck on the water, right? You're smooth on top and working hard underneath.
Sure.
So anything everybody sees is a flawless show. But like I said, there's a lot of cajoling and event management and rearranging and having to be very fluid. And again, situations arise where you have to be fluid in your mindset and thinking on your feet and putting out fires, as it were, and just make the show go off without a hitch.
Are you having fun, though?
I'm looking forward to tomorrow.
Are you okay? Okay. But are you enjoying?
I am. I love it. I love it. My wife was laughing at me again because she says it's almost like when a woman has a child. It's a lot of work, and it's, oh my God, this is so crazy. And the day after, you're like, I'm never doing that again. And then a little while later, you're like, you know what would be kind of cool to put on another event.
Right.
Enough time has passed, and let's do that again.
Right.
So here we are.
Thank you very much for your time, John.
Well,
and I'm
thank you.
Looking forward to the show.
No, thanks for coming by, man. Appreciate it.
Adrian, tell us why you are not fighting tonight.
So unfortunately, my opponent, a couple hours before the event, he pulled out due to not having his registration with his boxing license in place and ready to fight. Unfortunately, you need that to compete in Ontario. So a couple hours notice, and we scrambled trying to find an opponent, and no one was willing to step up last second. So I'm out for tonight, but hopefully I'll be back in a few weeks. We'll see how it goes.
What does that mean as far as you obviously you train for this fight? As I'm assuming you're always training, obviously. But but you're not fighting tonight. How do you feel about that?
Well, it's a letdown. I'm sitting there with my family before the fight, and am I fighting? Am I not? It's anyone who's fought in anything, MMA, boxing, Muay Thai. Doesn't matter what it is. You go through those nerves. That roller coaster happens, and it's different when you're going to an event as a spectator or even supporting a teammate. But it's difficult because I put a lot of work into it. I got cleared from my doctor. I had LASIK surgery. So this is my first fight back, and
this is eye surgery.
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah. So I needed that in order to compete still because my vision wasn't up to par.
Right.
So it's my first fight back, and I took this fight 2 weeks ago, and I trained hard. I was doing tough sparring sessions, fresh guys each round, putting in work, doing sprints, the battle ropes, the whole nine. While still working, 2 jobs, still doing everything else. So it's disappointing. I had family come up from the GTA to watch this fight.
Wow. And
that happens a lot in amateur boxing, unfortunately. People pull out.
You said you were preparing for another fight coming up soon. When is that fight?
I might. Well, now I'm going to try and get on there's a few cards happening. There's one I know that Beaver Boxing is putting on.
Right, on the 4th.
Yeah, they're great for any events. I really recommend their events. Beaver runs a professional show, and they have great fighters there. We cross-train a lot with their guys. We spar with them. I've had a couple fights with some Beaver guys. And, I go check it out, May 4th. For sure.
Now, Adrian, you have you train jiu-jitsu and I believe you fought in MMA, yes?
Yeah, I've had 2 amateur MMA fights. I fought a fight out of Evolution TriStar. So Zach Powell and all those guys. I know you guys have interviewed some of them before, and I fought there. And it's funny because I got into boxing through MMA, so I did it kind of backwards for most people. I realized I needed some help with my hands, and so I started working with Celtic Hammer and. My last MMA fight, I picked the guy apart with I basically made a boxing match in a cage. Guy couldn't really touch me. I just outboxed him, jabbed, threw so much volume at him he couldn't handle it. And then I fell in love with boxing. But I've had 2 MMA fights. I train jiu-jitsu. I'm a purple belt in that as well. So I've been at this game now for about 10 years in one form or another.
So you said you've been at it for a decade? Is that
about that in one form or another, either kickboxing, MMA, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, boxing.
What sport defines you as a combat sports athlete? What do you dream about? What in terms of when you're thinking about fighting? What comes to mind?
In all honesty,
because you're involved in all of them.
Yeah, so. I just doesn't matter what discipline it's in. I just want someone who's coming to fight. I love those fights where it could go either way, and you're the one having to dig deep, and when you feel that other guy break. Not even physically. I'm talking like when you see him, he doesn't want any part of this anymore. That's what I really enjoy.
Have you done Thai as well?
That's the only thing I haven't fought in. I've competed in everything else, but not Thai.
Are you considering potentially down the road crossing over?
I'd have a hard time with because I'm a shorter fighter, so I do a lot of head slipping and head movement to get inside, and so the leg kicks would add up. But I'd consider it, especially maybe under like K1 rules. But yeah, no, I'll probably get back in the cage at some point. But probably not under Muay Thai rules. Now,
because you're, it's an interesting opportunity here to ask you this question because you've been involved in grappling as far as jiu-jitsu goes, mixed martial arts, and boxing. How would you differentiate these sports from a spectator's point of view? In other words, what is the mood like at a boxing? What are we going to experience here tonight? What are we experiencing here vis-a-vis, say, an amateur MMA show or a jiu-jitsu tournament? What's the energy like? What's the mood like? Who are these people coming out and watching this?
Well, I think there's a different vibe for people competing in boxing MMA compared to, say, jiu-jitsu tournaments or even like Submission X, which is a great promotion, but it's different for when you're not getting punched in the face. So as an athlete, it's different when you're entering that. There's still a high level of talent in all aspects. As a fan, you're going there, you're cheering, you want to see your buddy, hopefully knock someone out, and you can have a few drinks and talk about how tough you are back in your day. That happens a lot for spectators. But as the athletes, I've seen this MMA, I've seen this in boxing. It's quiet. Quite often I sleep before my fights. I have a nap before because I don't want to get the adrenaline dump before. I want to try and save that. And again, like I'm there, I'm listening to Bob Marley. I'm relaxed, and there's no point listening to DMX or something like that getting pumped up before the fight when you got a couple hours before you compete. So I think the vibe is very different. You'll see a very different vibe from what's in the back compared to what's actually going on in the ring and where the spectators are. It's a very different element to the game. Even as someone for me tonight, I'm not fighting, but I'm going to be supporting my teammates. I'm going to be in the back helping them warm up. I'm going to be in and out. But for me, it's different even because I get to see that feeling that they're having, that quiet calm before the storm, and you experience it as a fighter. Doesn't matter what discipline it's in.
When you're watching these guys fight tonight, what's going through your mind? Are you watching strictly as, oh, that's my training partner, or are you breaking it down analytically and technically? Are you immersed as a fan? Are you immersed as a coach type? You know what I mean? Like, what hat are you wearing?
When it's a teammate I know who could, I've had a couple of teammates in fights where I know they know what to do and they could, they just got to pull the trigger to make it happen. And if they're not doing that, I become more emotional. It's hard. It's much harder watching your friends and teammates fight, especially people who have helped you prepare for major events. But for the most part, I'm just watching from more of a coaching perspective, seeing what they're doing right, what they're doing wrong, trying to learn from it myself. Very rarely do I analyze another opponent, because a lot of guys, I've fought everyone there is really in Ottawa to fight in my weight class, in my category.
What's your weight class again?
Well, I fight.
Fluctuates?
I fought up at. I walk around about 171, but I fought at 185 before.
You're looking bigger than 180 right now. What are you at?
I'm at 173 right now.
Okay.
This fight was supposed to be at 175. MMA, I fought at lightweight at 155, 160. I fought at 168. Kind of depends how much time I have to prepare. Mm-hmm. And really, if there's opportunity, if there's a guy who's bigger that a couple pounds, then I'll fight him. But I fluctuate a lot. But only a few times have I ever watched another fight and said, okay, I might be fighting this guy. I should watch what he's doing. Usually, I'm just enjoying it and seeing what they're doing right technically.
How would you describe this community here, this Ottawa Gatineau community? I spoke to John earlier, and he mentioned that there's a few shows in Buckingham, there's a few shows in Ottawa. How would you describe it from as a practitioner of this sport? It's
small. It's a small community, especially compared to like the GTA that has many more clubs. For us, it's we have to be close in a lot of ways because we rely on each other for training. I was down at Beaver sparring another guy, Ahmed, who was supposed to fight in this card, but again, his opponent pulled out as well. Because, there's not that many guys in my club in my weight. So if I need to get, round robin kind of sparring going in, we all come together, we help each other out, even though we might be fighting one of the other guys a couple weeks later. There's no bad blood, which is good. It's a very small community. Everyone's kind of supporting each other. We're trying to keep the sport alive. A lot of times, boxing falls on and off people's radar depending on what event's happening. Obviously with the whole McGregor-Mayweather fight, boxing came back in the spotlight for a bit. But it's a small community, but it's close. If you had a couple fights, you probably know all the coaches. Looking around this room, I recognize everybody. So it's very similar to the jiu-jitsu community.
Please continue.
The last Submission X show was phenomenal for that. You saw it's a small community. Everyone wants to come together to help keep the sport going, right? It's the same thing for boxing. Speaking
of Mayweather, what are your thoughts on him crossing over into MMA? As someone who has crossed over from jiu-jitsu and mixed martial arts into boxing to refine one's hands, what are your thoughts on that?
It's not good.
Why?
It's bad for, I think, both sports. I think the first fight was bad for both sports. But it comes down to...
Really? I'd like to know why. Why was it bad?
Mayweather carried him. Carried him for the 10 rounds, for sure.
You think he did?
I think he landed that one clean. I think it was an uppercut he landed or something. That one big shot he landed, McGregor against Mayweather. But you could see Mayweather's fighting Mexican style, which is basically coming with your hands up and ear muffin, which he never does that. He doesn't take unnecessary punishment. He was trying to put a show on, because if you finish him too quickly, well, what the big deal? You beat up an MMA guy, right? So he's trying to sell the fight. He did a very good job at doing that. I think for the crossover, Mayweather has no chance. There's not a single chance. Even if me going back to amateur MMA, I'd have to adjust my game, my stance, and that's even with, I'd have a hard time even with the pretty solid jiu-jitsu background I have. I'd have to take about a couple months of just doing kickboxing opposed to boxing. Now I hear that they're going to do modified rules for Mayweather in the cage. I've heard that rumor, which at that point it's not even MMA.
Right.
If there's no kicks, there's no grappling, then it's not MMA. Even in the clinch, like if he's got someone in a clinch but he can't elbow him, then what's the point? Doesn't do anything for McGregor.
Right. Do you think, with the amount of popularity that boxing, the surge of fans that it got from that crossover of mixed martial arts into Conor McGregor going into MMA, do you think tonight we can expect to see maybe a few fans who might have fallen in love with boxing after that, like few MMA
for sure,
fans?
Because they start asking questions. Especially at an event like this, they probably know somebody in some capacity, either a friend of a friend is fighting and something's happening, so they start, I love that fight, the Mayweather fight, I love the McGregor fight. Because from a fan's perspective, I'm not talking necessarily a fight fan perspective, but from the average viewer, it was entertaining to watch. So I think it definitely helps with sports across the globe. Doesn't matter if it's a small amateur event or if it's a major one. People tune in because they're more intrigued by it now. That brought light to a sport that needed a light shined on it, right? So I think it helped for sure in some capacity.
Well, thank you very much for your time, and I do hope that on the 4th, on May 4th, that we will be able to catch you fight. And if we're there, we'd like to definitely, I know Capital Combat Parlay, we'd like to interview you.
Oh, for sure.
So hopefully that goes through. And thank you very much for your time.
Oh, well, thank you.
Out of the blue corner, fighting out of Beaver Boxing in Ottawa, making his debut, Adrian Carrasco.
So my name is Adrian Davin Carrasco. I'm fighting out of the Beaver Boxing Club in Ottawa. And tonight it was my first fight, my debut.
You just fought. Congratulations on your victory. Lead us through the match.
At the start, I was a bit like feeling. I saw him like warm up, and I was like, oh, he's technically like less good than me. But then, like when I went in the ring, it felt so different. The guy was more experienced. His punches like hit me really hard, and I was like, how I'm going to do to win the match. And then. Thanks to the coaches, during the 3 rounds, they led me to this victory.
What were they telling you throughout?
They were telling me I have to go more forward into that, to fight the guy, because I was a bit like going backwards all the match. And they told me like to play the game of the guy because he was really aggressive, and I really wasn't expecting that. And they told me to hook cross, because I'm a southpaw, so to use my reach. So they really helped me, and also for the mental, it was really good to have someone talking to me. And
when you say you thought he was his technique was lacking, can you elaborate on that? Well, what gave it away?
Well, when he was warming up, his hands were really down, so I was like, okay, I'm going to hit him in the face because his hands were down. But then. What the thing I forgot is I'm not like Floyd Mayweather or anything. So I have also my problems,
Right.
So I was only focusing on his problems and not on mine. So when I went in the ring, I was only like using his weaknesses, but I forgot I had a lot of weaknesses also. It's my first fight, so my weaknesses are really there's a lot I have to improve.
Well, what do you have to improve?
My stamina, for example. To push myself more, because in training I go through my limits, but I don't go more than my limits, and I have to push this, and it's in the mental. Everything is the mental, and I think this win is going to help me a lot for the mental. It's great for your confidence, and how to improve this win.
What are you doing as far as mental training? How do you prepare for you just debuted tonight. This is your first fight. How did you prepare mentally for this? Because from my point of view, you came in pretty excited. You came in, appeared to be confident. You were happy to be here. Yeah. Yeah,
I'm really happy to be here.
Right.
I know there's a lot of style of fighters.
Sure.
I saw a lot of fighters like Tony Yoka, the French gold medalist in 2016. In the Olympics, his way to prepare mentally is like to close himself. So during the fight day, he just stays alone with his headphone and listening to music. But my way to prepare mentally is to hang out with friends, like live life, you know. I'm not from here.
Where are you from?
I'm from France and Bolivia.
Okay, wow.
And so my mother is Bolivian, and we have this culture, you know, to be with the friends, with the family, to live the life, and that's how I prepare mentally, to be with people and laugh with them, and not to be alone.
Where did you grow up, in France or Bolivia?
In France,
Okay.
but I went a lot in Bolivia.
Okay.
My father is French and my mother Bolivian.
Which part of France are you from?
Paris, the suburbs.
Did you do any martial arts there or any sports?
No, I
judo or anything
started
like
boxing. Oh, I did judo, but when I was 7 years old.
that? Okay.
So
What got you into boxing?
I was fighting. I'm not going to lie. I was fighting a lot.
Sure, in the streets.
Yeah. And I'm going to tell you a funny story.
Sure.
Is that I wanted to 1 year ago, before I came here to study.
From France.
Yeah, from France. I
Right.
told my parents that I wanted to go into boxing because I just watched the Olympics, you know, and with all the French medalists
Sure.
that we had, there was a lot of hype in boxing. So I was
Sure.
like, and I always loved to fight, you know. And my parents told me, okay, you're going to boxing if you stop fighting in the streets. And a week later, I was fighting in the streets, and my parents told me, "You're not going into boxing before 1 year."
Okay.
And so during this 1 year, I never fought, and I stayed focused on the homework. So I got the high school degree,
Yeah.
and I could study here, and I started boxing here.
Very cool. Why were you fighting in the streets?
Because
What do you have to prove, man?
Oh no, it's not that. It's like because I was a really like passive child.
Okay.
You know, but
Were you being bullied?
Yeah, that's the thing. Is that
Okay.
because you know, I have like the type of eyes that like maybe Chinese or people in Bolivia have.
Yeah.
But I'm white, so people
You're half Bolivian, half French.
Yeah. So they don't in France. There's not a lot of racism, but there's some racism. And I was with people that call me like, "Oh, you're not from here" and stuff. So
Right.
you know, and I'm really emotional. So I was like always trying to defend myself. That's
Sure.
the way I started fighting.
So, what does it mean for you to have won tonight? And what, as far as your training and focusing on your weaknesses, what are the next steps for you?
The next steps for me
Yeah.
to train harder every day and to win again and again. And I hope one day I will represent Bolivia in the Olympics.
Oh wow.
In boxing. Yeah, that's my dream.
Wow.
Because Bolivia there's not a lot of people there. There's 10 million people in Bolivia.
Sure.
And the country is like two sizes the size of France. So there's not a lot of people for a big country, and there's not like big famous people in sport.
Sure.
And there has never been like a single medal in the Olympics.
And in any summer or Olympic,
summer or winter.
not even a bronze.
Not even a bronze, zero.
Interesting.
And I would like to be like, it's my dream, you know.
Sure. Are you dual citizenship? Do you have a Bolivian citizenship?
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah,
you could
both.
qualify
Yeah.
for the.
So I would like to go into the Olympics, and hopefully I will get a medal, but that's in a lot of years. I have a lot of practice to.
That's very cool, man. That's an awesome goal. So, as a French Bolivian Canadian,
I'm not Canadian.
oh, you're not. You're an international
Yeah,
student.
it's international.
Okay. So, as an international student of Bolivian and French descent, debuting as a boxer here tonight in Vanier at the historic Knights of Columbus, what one word would you use to describe this moment for you? Tu peux le dire en français si tu veux.
Mémorable.
Mémorable.
Ouais.
Ok.
Mémorable. Je peux continuer en
Oh ouais, continue en français.
C'est ma première victoire et ça restera jamais gravé dans la tête. Quand on gagne son premier essai début, c'est toujours, surtout quand on a un grand rêve dans la boxe, c'est toujours la première pierre.
Ouais.
On commence toujours par ça. Et surtout ici, des Canadiens qui ont été très gentils, qui sont très tolérants contrairement à certains Français. C'est
Alors,
vraiment...
L'atmosphère ici ce soir, peux-tu nous décrire l'atmosphère? C'est quoi l'atmosphère ici?
Oh, j'ai été très surpris par l'atmosphère. Ouais, là, c'était vraiment... C'était chaleureux. on se sentait chez soi. Quand il y a eu ma musique et tout, j'avais l'impression de revenir dans les fêtes avec mes grands-parents en Bolivie.
Oh, ouais.
Quand je rentrais sur la musique, sur la salsa, c'était vraiment super. Les gens qui applaudissaient,
Ouais,
surtout
ouais.
les gens du gym et tout, je les connais depuis janvier et ils sont là comme si c'était mes amis depuis toujours, en train de m'applaudir, de crier derrière moi.
Ouais, le côté à droite,
Ouais, le côté
c'était
à droite,
vraiment
c'était du feu. Les gars, ils
des
étaient
fous,
toujours là.
oui.
Ouais, c'était tous les gens de mon gym
Ouais,
qui sont
c'est
venus
juste-
pour mon début. J'ai commencé en janvier.
Parce que chaque fois que tu étais là-dedans, puis tu... you know, each time you were hitting them hard,
Yeah.
ils ont donné beaucoup d'énergie.
Yeah, it was like playing the final of the Champions League, you know.
Sure.
In Ottawa, like I was really surprised by the atmosphere and all the people.
Right.
Like everyone it's really respectful here. Like they cheer, they applaud for you
Yeah.
even if you're not from the club, if you're the enemy club I was Celtic.
The enemy club.
Yeah, I don't know.
I know, I'm kidding.
No,
Yeah.
It was my enemy in the
Sure,
fight, you know?
of course.
So it was the enemy club. Now they're my friends, you know.
Sure.
It's just a fight. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not reality.
Right. Well, thank you very much for your time and all the best.
And once again, guys, we've got a unanimous decision. Again, I can't stress this enough. Put your hands together. That was a great bout. Good job, guys. And our winner today, unanimous decision, blue corner.